Hey, gang, Husker football, by definition, let's get to what it means to be a Nebraska Husker.
You are Locked On Huskers, your daily podcast on the Nebraska Cornhuskers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, gang, DP here, Locked On Huskers. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. Greatly appreciated. Throw it to Mark Onwell and I'll let him tell you about Built Bar.
Thank you, DP. This episode of Locked On Huskers is brought to you by Built Bars. Now, if you're like me and you're trying to make healthier choices with your food, but you don't want to compromise on taste, you've got to try Built Bars and Built Puffs. Seriously, they taste so good, you're not going to think they're good for you, but they are. They've got incredible flavors like cookies and cream, peanut butter brownie, my favorite, churro, and I got to be honest, I'm not entirely sure how Built does it. The macros on them, incredible. Only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and 17 grams of protein. And now, you don't even have to wait to get a box. In the past, you've always been able to order them from Built.com. Now, if you're near a Sam's Club or a Walmart, and chances are you are, you can just hop in there, go over to the pharmacy section, grab yourself a box of 4 of them in flavors like cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puff. Or, like always, get all of the flavors over at Built.com. Check them out, Built Bars and Built Puffs, right now at Built.com. DP, back to you.
Thank you, Mark. Much appreciated. Again, we want to thank you folks for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. Thank you to the everydayers who come and hang out with us to get this Go Big Red on. In this episode, I want to talk about a few things. One, the scholarship list. A clearer picture for now, not complete. Clear is not complete. And a big part of determining what the 85 scholarship roster is going to look like is the definition of what is a Husker and what is Husker football, what is Nebraska football. Matt Rhule in the conversation brought up a very interesting thing, and I wanted to start with that, in that being Nebraska football means being the best of the best. Now, wrap your brain around that for a second, because there's a lot of truth to it, but then the truth requires confirmation and reaffirmation. So the best of the best, is that a phrase that when you hear it and when you say it, that you can and should be speaking of the University of Nebraska football under its current situation and scenario? Matt Rhule said that's the goal. That is the purpose and that is the mission. That above all things he needs to do is to re-identify what Nebraska football is and what it's about, who those people are. And he wants them to be the best people who happen to play the best football for the University of Nebraska. And he wants pride in the people who are playing football. He wants pride from the people who love Nebraska football. But the best of the best doesn't currently exist in Lincoln, Nebraska. That honor, especially in the Big Ten Conference, doesn't belong to Nebraska currently. Hasn't for a while. So the progression and the plan and the mission and the GPS, and Matt Rhule used those letters, GPS, which is a thing that resonates with me at a high vibrancy, that if you're setting the GPS, a couple of things have to be done. And he was purposeful in saying that it wasn't just the football. It wasn't just Nebraska as a football team. It was Nebraska and how they live. It was Nebraska and its community. It was Nebraska and its fan base. And then it's Nebraska and the people who work in the department to make sure that all missions fit the purpose and all of the purpose fits the mission. He wants the classiest and best to be Nebraska football. That is a huge monumental step. That is a thing out loud to say, that this 85 scholarship list has to be so good that it strikes fear in Ohio State and Michigan and Wisconsin and Michigan State and Maryland and I think we can fairly say that that's not currently where Husker Nation lives and where they stand, but then it becomes about reassessing and reestablishing the mission, the destination in your GPS. So think of Nebraska football as a car, and that it wants to end up somewhere as the ultimate mission. And is that mission that you put in the GPS just the first location? Is Matt Rhule projecting this thing at 6 wins? Is he projecting the end game to be 10? Is it Big Ten West? Is it Big Ten title? Is it national title? And he talked about putting up new titles in the building, the new numbers in the building. I had a coach who used to love to talk about putting new numbers on the building, because when you go outside, especially in high school or in college, the Memorial Stadium, there are numbers on the side of the building that carry value. And if you're a Husker fan, there's certain numbers that resonate with you, and those championship years. But you know them because they've existed as they are and as they stand for quite some time. And Matt Rhule is taking the task and accepting the task of changing the numbers on the building. In order to do that, he has to re-identify what it is that Nebraska football is, how they're going to go about their business, what success looks like, and who will take them there. Again, they've got to get to 85 players. But before you get to the 85 players that you think can help you win Big Ten games, or can help you win 6 games or 8 games, and there's a whole episode that will be based on exactly what the GPS should be set at, because there are those who are Husker fans who want no part of setting the GPS for 6 wins. But logic says in order to have any success but beyond that, you got to get to 6 first. And to get to 6, you got to get to 5, which hasn't always been assumed in Lincoln lately. But how do you get better? And the 85 scholarship players who will be listed on day one as they head into Minneapolis, that list is just important. It's super vital. It's super important. But you have to identify what that is. Do you want the 85 best football players? Do you want the best 85 student athletes? Do you want the best 85 scholar athletes? Do you want the best, 85 brickheads? Do you want the 85 best Huskers? And then identify that, okay, quality of life, style of living, being honorable, working towards a mission, being connected to that mission, is that the ideal Husker? And are you willing to marry that idea and concept in full so that there are 85 of those players under scholarship, under the same mission, under the same task, under the same goal, with the same purpose, and then identifying what that purpose is? I told you, over the course of the next few episodes, we'll do deep dive into it, because I'm telling you, as you watch this, and you can feel free to put your number down in the comment section, but what is the goal? Matt Rhule talked about mission and purpose. What's the mission? What is the mission? Is it win game 1 and then let everything else fall? Is it win 6 games? Is it win 8 games? Is it win the Big Ten West? Is it win the Big Ten? Or is it a national championship? Put your mission down in the comment section. And when we come back, we'll talk about the current list of players who are under scholarship who will be tasked to effectively execute said mission. We'll do that on Locked On Huskers when we come back. Welcome back, gang. Locked On Huskers, I'm DP, and thank you for allowing me to be with you every day here on Locked On Huskers, making it your first watch and listen each and every single day. Greatly appreciated. And again, through the course of the next few episodes, there's a lot to cover to set the groundwork and the foundation, building on the rock, as Matt Rhule says. At the bottom of the pyramid, there is the foundation, and at the foundation is the truth. The top has to be the result and the mission. The purpose has to be shown in the foundation. And the foundation for Nebraska football currently exists in 90 players who are currently under scholarship. And we've talked about on this podcast on a regular basis that they're going to have to start the season with 85, and you need to get to 85 in order to do so. That number has been complicated quickly because two players who were not on scholarship but who are expected to be a major part of what the Huskers do going forward in this next calendar year for football have been added to the scholarship list. So at some point, Nebraska got to 88. They got down to 88, and then they're back up to 90 because Borkature and Bullock both were assigned scholarships and accepted, and that put the Huskers at 90. Now, a couple of things to play, and we were talking about identifying what the best of the best is. And if you're telling me in the tight end room that Nate Borkature is the best of the best and that he's going to help you beat Michigan, Ohio State, et cetera, okay, that's a standard that we're going to have to work from. And then you have to ask yourself, what does that mean? What is he going to provide? Is it blocking, pass reception, special teams play, locker room leadership, academic support? All of those things are in play. So what are you going to get from Borkature that demands that not only he be a part of the 85, but that he's taking somebody else's spot? That means that Borkature and Bullock moving into their place will probably remove or bump two other players who are currently receiving scholarships. And the numbers are just interesting to me. Like if you asked me, and I'll ask you this, so my opinion of it doesn't matter, but I'll ask you, with the 90 players under scholarship currently at the University of Nebraska, can they reach whatever mission you set as the standard in the previous segment? Can this roster of 90 help this team win 6 games, 8 games, 10 games? Big Ten West, Big Ten, National Championship. If you look up and down this roster, I will allow you to answer the question, but let's go through it so we have it in play. There are currently 3 quarterbacks under scholarship: Heinrich Harburg, Chubba Purdy, and Jeff Sims. If you ask, I'm asking you, which of those standards can be met with Heinrich Harburg, Chubba Purdy, and Jeff Sims in your quarterback room as the scholarship quarterbacks? I'll also ask for each of these rooms, is there an addition required? Where does that addition have to land? Is a fourth quarterback necessary? And if that fourth quarterback is necessary, does the quarterback have to be better than Jeff Sims to achieve the numbers, to serve the mission, and complete the purpose for what Matt Rhule has put in play? Same for the running back room with 5 running backs: Anthony Grant, Ramir Johnson, Gabe Ervin Jr., Emmett Johnson, and Quentin Ives. I would think that of all the rooms, that this room has as much hope for being Big Ten ready, prepared, and successful as any of the other rooms. I think it's fair to say that if Gabe Ervin, Ramir Johnson, Anthony Grant lined up as your starting tailback, Nebraska would feel pretty good about their chances of winning Big Ten football games. Now, none of them can say that they've been really good at winning Big Ten football games because they never have been. But as they've evolved, maybe in this season they're good enough. I'll ask you that. If you go to the wide receiver room that has 11 receivers in it, Marcus Washington, Josh Fleeks, Billy Kemp IV, Isaiah Garcia Castaneda, and Xavier Betts as the 5, and then a room full of true freshmen that, not sure what you're going to count on or how much you can count on them to help you win Big Ten games. I will take your opinion on that. Does there need to be another high-level receiver added to the room? Do they exist? Are they out there? And what's the level and the standard that they have to be at? Do they have to be better than, the 5 that we talked about? I would think that if that's what we're talking about, winning 6 games or winning 8 games or winning 10 games or otherwise, that you're saying that this group is good enough to do so. The same for the tight end room. Borkature is now a scholarship tight end. Arik Gilbert, Thomas Fidone, those are the 3 elder statesmen. Those are all sophomores, mind you. So I can't imagine that you would kick any of them out the door. Then there's Chase Androff, Applegate, Bonner, and Smith-Flores. I think that room's in pretty good space. There are 14 offensive linemen. And I ask you, is this room good enough for Nebraska and Matt Rhule to win whatever number of games you set as the standard and the benchmark and the mission? Benhart, Corcoran, Piper, Riley, Scott, Hoska, Lutovsky, Hood, Jenkins, and then a bunch of freshmen, 5 freshmen. Does that room change? I can't imagine that anybody has that answer. The players, I'm not sure if the players even know. But can that group be good enough for Nebraska to accomplish the things that Matt Rhule is talking about? Is that group good enough to beat Ohio State? Because it never has. Good enough to beat Michigan? It never has. Doesn't mean they won't this year, and it doesn't mean they haven't improved enough or that they won't improve enough over the next 3 months to do so. But I'm open to your thoughts and opinions. You can put them down in the box below. We'll address them in future episodes. Special teams, look, they're comfortable in what that is. We'll ride it. I think the special teams, as they currently stand, will be good enough to help them win a game. If you ask me whether they're good enough to take them from 4 to 5 wins, I'm not sure if it's good enough to take them from 5 to 6 or 5 to 8 or Big Ten West. But that leaves the defensive group. And oh well, we'll throw it a break. And when we come back, we'll talk about the defensive side of the ball and those scholarships. From 90 to 85 is where the Huskers will have to go. More Locked On Huskers when we come back. Hey, gang, DP, once again, thank you. I applaud you for joining and letting Locked On Huskers be your first watch and listen each and every single day, and it's greatly appreciate the everyday folks who come on, no matter when we launch these episodes. As we go forward, I think I'm going to lean towards there being 20 Monday through Friday episodes rather than some weekend. But for the rest of the month of May, I'm going to go every day just to get you guys caught up so we can get on the same page and then, bear down and settle in for the chaos that becomes June around the Husker football program, around Husker athletics. Again, some of that will be tribute work, talking to former Huskers, and some of it will be celebratory episodes where we talk about senior athletes who are moving along, graduating, who put in their time at the University of Nebraska and certainly deserves for us to applaud them here on Locked On Huskers. But we were talking about the number being 90. There are 90 players under scholarship. 5 have to be moved before the season starts. And that number is still just a relative number because that's assuming that you have an 85-player roster that's good enough to help you do whatever mission you accept as the gospel for this football season. And Husker fans may have different wants, needs, expectations, and hopes than Matt Rhule does. I don't know whether, having the best season means 6 wins, 8 wins, Big Ten West, Big Ten national championship. Conversation this week was about national championships. And if you're talking from that level and you know that you can't build it overnight, but you have to have foundations in place. And the foundation comes from this. I want to say this before we get into some of the other numbers. The foundation comes from consistency, things that can be done, that can be set in place as absolute rock solid so that you can build on top of that and around it. That's what the foundation is all about. The base of the pyramid, the holding of ground, the setting of standard that we are not going to ever move from these things. These bricks are permanent, in full, and they will exist. So style of work and effort in the weight room and conditioning and being sound in nutrition away from the field and knowing your playbook and doing the film study and the type of athlete, what type of athlete does Matt Rhule want and demand to be a part of this, because he wants Nebraska football to be the best of the best. 5 players have to be moved. There are 13 current defensive linemen: Nash Hutmacher, Ty Robinson, Raquan Buckley, Gunnarsson, Judy, Wallen, and Rollins. And then a host of 6 behind that, 5 freshmen and 1 redshirt freshman. I just think that room has to change. And I'm not sure if that room is strong enough to win 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 Big Ten games this season. I just don't know. As we opened the show with, John Bullock becomes a new member of the scholarship club. And if you add that to Luke Reimer, MJ Sherman, Garrett Snodgrass, Nick Heinrich, Seth Malcolm, Randolph Kapai, Mekhi Gabayer, Jamari Butler, Chief Borders, and Kane Williams, with 3 freshmen of some name and renown, I think that room has to change as well. 1 player, maybe 2. Not sure which of the group there is. The safety room looks pretty rock solid because it allows you to play in that 3-3-5 and having different players with different skill sets. Now, if it changes, I would not be surprised. But Gabe Stanger as a redshirt freshman, Corey Collier, Colby Bretz, then Buda Wright, Isaac Guilford, Deshaun Singleton, Marcus Buford, and Miles Farmer. And I'm just not sure. And then the cornerback room with Omar Brown, Quentin Newsom, Tommy Hill, Javier Morton, Malcolm Hartzog, and Timon Lynham. 4 freshmen along with that were brought in for very specific reasons, just in cause. And of all the players we just talked about, at least 5 need to be removed to reach 85. And if that talent is good enough to go with that 85, then you're all set and you're done. You can get to work. But if you think that roster is not strong enough and not deep enough and not talented enough, you've got to go below the 85 to go and get additional players who can play on this roster. It's going to be a busy summer in Lincoln. Matt Rhule and coaching staff have their hands full. We will be here to watch and walk you all through it. Tomorrow's episode, we'll talk about the transfer portal. Some folks in and some folks out, and we'll talk a little softball and a little baseball along the way as well. I'm DP. This is Locked On Huskers. Thank you for making it the first watch and listen each and every day. Greatly appreciate you every day as we cheer for you. And we close with those 3 words that we love so much. Go Big Red.